we want our arms to be able to work correctly. Trail arm has to feel like it works a little under, as the lead arm feels like it stays a little more up. And now you've got to figure out how to get the barrel back. And once we can feel that, now we can start applying that to the golf ball. Really exaggerated.
Thank you so much for these great people on the screen here. They are supporting our channel to bring you more education like this. If you are interested in joining the crew, come on down. The link is in the description below. Welcome back to the channel. So Milo Lines was suggested by you guys for me to evaluate and take a look at his cause and effect to see if he actually does what he teaches. And if you didn't gather from that introduction, finally, we have somebody that actually does what they teach. And it's such a great relief to see this. And Milo had a first love for the game in baseball, and he turned that into golf at some point in his career. And he was actually working under Mike Malaska Golf. So we could see a lot of Malaska in Miles, but obviously they're two different individuals, and he's got his own spin on it. But we're going to take a look at this swing right here and show you how he's actually doing what he preaches. And so I definitely suggest you go check out his channel to see if this method works for you, because obviously, just with all methods, it could work a certain style but maybe not work for others. And Miles definitely gets his body into some really good positions, but we're going to take a look at how those positions work for him, and is this applicable to you and your body style. Now you will notice a pretty significant forward shaft lean. We're going to talk about how he's able to utilize positions to get that forward shaft lean down an impact but still get the ball up in the air, and it has something to do with spin loft. So at the end of the video, we'll explain what spin loft does. Basically, it comes down to angle of attack, your dynamic loft at impact, and also the magic ingredient that most cannot do is club head speed to impart more spin. But let's just go take a look at his swing right here, and then at the end of the video, we'll explain what spin loft is and how, if you have the abilities that he has, he can definitely make that forward press work. All I can say with this swing is just wow. I mean, it is quite the move. It's very athletic. It is very powerful, and we're going to talk today about how Milo utilizes the up and down motion as well as rotation. And I know that he has discussed this in multiple videos about how to use vertical force, and if you can and you're able to do it, it really will help you develop more club head speed, and it assists in anchoring the body too, so you don't have to rely so much on lateral motion. But I get that some people need lateral motion if they can't utilize up and down or suffer with the turn. So just remember, everybody is so different and so unique. But let's just take a look at Milo Lines cause and effect, and what you notice already is the amount of up and down motion. If you can't see it yet, you will be kind of amazed at how much he goes down and back up. Also the rotation, also the need to tilt, and also the need to have that forward press, because if he does not have that forward press, he's going to bottom out way before the golf ball because he goes down so much. And he's still able to utilize this, but how? It's all spin loft. So let's just break this down for you from the start. So we go to the start of the swing, and we got our usual suspect lines here. We've got Ivan Red on the left side of the screen showing you that forward shaft lean, Mellow Yellow showing you the tilting, and basically where the center of that tilt is going to be pointing. And remember, this is eyeballing it, so it's not going to be exact, just going to give you an idea of what's going on. And on the left side, that little tiny line above his head in our Gumby Green is going to show you that up and down motion. Right side of the screen, we got Ivan Red to show you the up and down motion, Gumby Green right through his spine, and lower plane, upper plane, and Mellow Yellow. Now I know we forgot Barney Purple, but Barney Purple is just hard to see because he's just going to blend right into the market. So we will find a place for Barney Purple. Mark my words, I will use him. But you can see with the blue line, and yes, we're finding a blue name. It could be Smurf or Cookie Monster, maybe Cookie Smurf. But if you look at that blue line, that's going to show you basically where the arches of the heel are, and he's fairly connected to that. There is a slight toe-based setup, and with toe-based, we typically do see more up and down motions, but his up and down motion is basically due because of the amount of lowering he does in his swing, and it needs to provide room for his hands to work more vertical and not so much around. So if we take that club back, we will definitely see a beautiful takeaway right here. Look at that right side of the screen. Hands are on that lower plane line. Club face is slightly above it. It is matching his spine angle line, so it looks really good. Left side of the screen, to see a nice takeaway where the arms are moving with that turn, and this is going to give him that stretch that he's looking for on this left side. So if I were to jump in his body with my feeling feelings, I would probably feel a lot of stretch going on that left side. And remember, that's that stretching that we look for our muscles. So when we contract them, they travel further, create more horsepower, yada, yada. But once we go from here to the top of the swing, notice how the hands want to just go more vertical, straight up in the sky. Now you might think that's a little bit odd because it's not finding the center of him, meaning his hands are not deep enough. But you know what? He doesn't need depth with this motion because look at the amount of his head going down. Left side of the screen, look at the spacing here. It's already going down, and believe me, it's going to go down. You know what? We'll use Barney Purple here. There we go. There's Barney Purple. So we'll use, look at that arrow going down. And then on the right side of the screen, we'll also see that little arrow pointing down. So our head is going down. It's not necessarily our head. It's our whole body going down, ready to do what? Jump back up. So just as we always want to try and do, if we want to jump higher, you can't jump higher from staying in your same position. You've got to go down to push up in the sky. So he's stealing that vertical ground force. Not necessarily stealing. I guess that's the bad word. He's borrowing it from Mother Nature. And in order to do that, in order to create the room, his hands can't get back there. So it needs to be more up and down. So we know it's more up and down by look at the amount of spacing between his hands and his head. So that's a lot of spacing going on there. So face on, if you can look at your hands between your head, you can kind of get an idea of where your hands are. But a great thing that he does too is look at the lower body, kind of restricting that turn. Upper body's getting a beautiful turn, and those hands are out in front, and the club shaft is nowhere near forming the T to his turn. Now some amateurs I see, let's say that's their turn, their club shaft gets way back over here because the hands and arms go on their own little journey, but that could be because they're not feeling that stretch. Sometimes you need that stretch on that left side by locking your lower body to stop your hands from saying, hey, you know, I'm going to steal some more, but you don't need that. Now if you have the ability to have really good hand-eye coordination, you can maybe steal some of it, but I would not suggest it. So again, right side of the screen, you might say that's not deep enough, it's nowhere near his centeredness, or needs to be behind him. But hey, you know what, for him this works wonders, because watch this first move. We have the head going down, down, down. It's still going down. So look at how much he has moved down. It's almost one full head width. Now it's not his head going down, it's not his chest going down, because it's still in that same spine angle. So we know we're not bowing down to the golf ball, we are squatting. So look at the knees are squatting down only to get him ready to do what? Jump back up. Now in order to create the room for his hands and arms to move through that area, what we're going to have to do is keep our hands and arms out in front of us so they are nowhere near that lower plane line. They don't necessarily have to be there because they're running out of room if they get there. Can you imagine that club down over here? He is going to be so trapped that he will have to really accentuate that body turn and tilt, and that might give him some injuries. So this is the best way to make this work. But if you take a look at the back brace line on the right side of the screen, he is actually moving further away from the golf ball. So now we have somebody that's compression down and creating room with the back brace line. Look at this whole area from here to here that his arms can just stay connected and turn and tilt correctly. So he needs all that room to make this work. As we get down into impact, here we go. There goes that rotation, and look at that. Arms slot in perfectly, and we see with that tiny little bit of move there, that club is getting to that lower plane line more effectively. And look at the left side, look at how much angle he is able to carry right before he hits the golf ball. His hands are almost at the golf ball and he's still carrying a lot of angle. Now remember, it's not an angle relative to the ground, it's the angle relative to your forearms. So if we take a look at this yellow line, he is right at 99-ish degrees of hinge. So this is great conservation of angular momentum. So here we have somebody that is utilizing their body positions, their athletic ability, their strong, powerful frame to drop, create the room, get away from your hands so your hands can just go along for the ride, while the body is now creating so much power that this is a very body driven motion. The goal of the hands and arms is not to create power. The goal of the hands and arms is to deliver the power by keeping up with the turn and tilt and their hand speed relative to each other. So now that angular momentum can store up more energy, and as it transfers over, the hand speed slows down slowly, but bam, that's where all the power gets into. So watch this. 1, 2, you see those head? Look at the heads on both of them. They're going back up. So now we're jumping back up. We have the spacing to release on the left side of the screen. Let's clear up a couple of these lines here. Let's clear up all these lines. So we know he keeps his great posture and his great spine angle, but right here, we see that club is definitely forward pressing a lot. Now, if you watch my videos, I try and urge you not to do this because we don't have an exceptional athletic position like this gentleman. Usually we are sacrificing our turn and tilt to get to that position, and then we have to to at least give you a fighting chance, so dig into the ground. Now remember, he had that huge angle with his wrist because he went down so much. If he did not have that angle, he would actually hit the ground. So he's actually having to carry that forward press longer than most, because even though he's gone up, he is still down relative to where he started. So he needs to hold this angle and he needs to get his tilting. So we see the tilting is close to that angle. If we extend where the shoulders meet at that 90-degree angle, watch the next frame, they're going to catch up. Boom, right there. They just caught up to where it was. So we're about a frame ahead of where most people are because he can get into these exaggerated positions. Now, on the right side of the screen, we see that exit path. Look at how quick it escapes lower, and how does it match up to our entrance path? Look how good it is. It is almost the same. So here we have somebody that is utilizing a great, powerful, compact motion, going up and down, rotating, carrying some forward press out of necessity, or else he'll chunk the ground, and he's able to pull this off with a lot of speed and rotation. Now, how does this work for him? Hey, he's a very gifted man, and I'm sure if you take some of his concepts and try to apply it to you, you will definitely see some improvements. I'm always in favor of finding a way to stay in your posture. I'm always in favor of using vertical force. Now, if you can get the best of both worlds, that's great. I'm always in favor of trying to carry angles longer, but in order to do so, you need to make sure you can get spacing for your hands and arms to move through that impact zone. And in order to do that, you have to be a different type of body. You have to have a lot of flexibility. You have to be able to hold your angles while you tilt through the ground and not release too soon, so your hand-eye coordination must be pretty good. In other words, you have to be a pretty strong guy, but you can still take little pieces of this and apply it to your swing, but it all revolves around your ball position. So please make sure your ball position is correct for this, and his ball position works wonderfully. You can see it's favoring his lead foot to allow that forward press, to give him that extra 1 or 2 frames so he doesn't have to get those hands too involved. So it's still very important to look at. Now let's just talk about where this all comes from, and we'll leave his swing plain because it is such a nice swing. So what is Spin Loft? Well, Spin Loft's a little bit curious, and it doesn't really make sense in your brain, but Spin Loft is you take your dynamic lofted impact and then you minus your angle of attack, and that'll give you your spin loft. So in other words, if you have 18 degrees of dynamic lofted impact where that club face is pointed at impact, and let's say the angle of attack is -4, you're hitting down, then the spin loft is actually 18 degrees minus a -4. So that gives you 22 degrees. Basically the gap between where the face is pointing and the path is traveling, and that gap will create friction and compression, generating more backspin. But remember, there is this catch. You need club head speed to take advantage of positions that he is in. So if you have, let's say, a 75-mile-an-hour club head speed with a 7-iron, you can have a lower ball speed. Your spin might be decent, but not enough velocity to generate lift from that spin. So the result for that would be these low launch, floaty, dropping short balloons or dead air flights that just feels like you might compress it, but it just spins and stalls. Now let's say you jump that up to 95 miles an hour, you're gonna have a higher ball speed. The same spin loft will equal more total spin, now with enough velocity to activate a thing called Magnus effect. And your result will be a high launch climbing shot that carries further and stops quicker. So now that spin plus the speed is going to generate lift and extend the flight. So you can take advantage of forward shaft leans like he does, only if you can generate club head speed by doing it. And I fear that if we do have many amateurs trying to get to this forward shaft lean position, they're not getting their body involved enough to create club head speed to take advantage of the Magnus effect. So what is this Magnus effect? Well, when the ball spins, especially with backspin, it messes with the air around it. The air moves faster over the top of the ball and slower underneath, and that actually creates lift. It's kind of like the ball is riding on a little wing that it has. The faster the ball spins and the faster it's moving, the more that lift kicks in. And that's why pros can hit down on the 7-iron and the ball still flies pretty high because they're spinning it fast and the magnus effect is helping it climb. But I do hope you enjoy that. If you do like this, hit that like, share, subscribe. If you've taken his courses, let me know how that went and let me know if it's working for you or not. But go subscribe to his channel, go check out his videos. He's got a lot of good content out there. But I'll see you next time. Fairways and greens.